Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, The Black Accountant. It's your boy Mo, and if you haven't already done so, you know the drill. Go ahead and like, comment, subscribe, and let me know in the comments of any kind of content you want to see going forward. And most importantly, don't forget to turn on notification bells so you get notified when I drop new videos. So you see I'm wearing the glasses today. I actually poked out the lenses because I can see well now, but I was missing my glasses phase, bringing back that early 2010s, late 2000s style of the fake frames. But I digress. So today's topic, I wanted to talk a little bit about being too available and also making yourself that fix-it person. And it's an interesting topic to me because I think, in my opinion, I've been that person for a really long time, and it when you become that person, like the reliable person or the person that everybody becomes like a go-to guy for other people, it has a lot of pros and cons. So like the pros obviously being that you handle responsibility very well because you've been handed responsibilities from a very young age. But the downside of it is you don't really get to explore yourself or the way that you deal with other things socially until much later in life. So like for me personally, I felt like I missed out on a lot of childhood experiences and a lot of social settings because I was always kind of like jumping to grow up a little bit too quickly. So like I would be taking on responsibilities, and as I got older and older, what I've been noticing is that like I always gravitate to friend groups of people that are significantly older than me. And those are the people that I get along with. I have a really difficult time getting along with, not getting along, sorry, but befriending people my age because I just don't see eye to eye. I don't think we're mentally in the same page. And also, I just don't know how to exist in those circles that well. But, and I think it all kind of boils down to being too available to other people and to other people's lives and their problems. And I started thinking to myself, and this is when I was kind of getting out of that bubble of, why are these people's problems occupying my time? Why am I actively trying to find solutions to somebody else's problem and then that person isn't doing the same? It's like kind of feeling a responsibility for somebody else's life when it's not your responsibility. And I think kind of making yourself a little bit less available to do that could benefit those people much more than you being present to automatically fix things. And you being so present automatically makes you the default go-to person, which is terrible because then you don't get to live your life really because you're always worried about what's going on with somebody else. You don't get the time to figure out what's going on with you. And I found that this was really the case for me and like a lot of my siblings, although some of them may disagree, of just kind of me actively figuring out what is going on in your life. If you have problems, always trying to fix those for them or for you. And I realized I was just, by doing that, I was just not living my life. And also, it like those people would sometimes like make bad decisions, maybe sometimes my siblings, sometimes friends, and then I'd get kind of stuck with trying to figure out how to get out of it or how to help that person because they assumed I was already going to fix the issue, so they didn't make any effort to fix it, and now it's kind of handed to me last minute. And even if I'm dealing with my own things or my own problems, now I have to kind of like prioritize their issue because they let the issue get so bad that I'm automatically supposed to fix it. And if I don't fix it, they also don't know how to fix it. So then there's this displaced anger that gets put on me. And I'm giving this obviously as an example. I hold no resentment towards anybody, especially friends or siblings, because I put myself in that position either willingly or unwillingly. And also, you always have the power to change the nature of relationships, even if it's difficult. And that's something I think a lot of people need to hear. You always are the person in control of your life. You always get to make those decisions, no matter how difficult it is. Somebody telling you that you have the ability to change something doesn't mean that they're minimizing your struggle or problem. It just means that they're telling you it's something that you need to do, that you can do, and it doesn't mean it's going to be simple or easy. It just is something that you can do. So side note, I had to just kind of give that a little bit of a disclaimer. And I guess I want to also give an example of from like a parent perspective. A lot of times you see this with overprotective parents. They over involve themselves in their kids' lives. And as a result, those kids typically tend to either operate very secretively because they're not allowed to do anything. And also a lot of times their mistakes are kind of put up front and the parent is always trying to solve those problems and to keep their kids out of harm's way, which is a positive intention initially. But I think it shows a lack of trust in your children to be able to make wise decisions themselves. you're also taking away from that person's ability to learn from their own mistakes in a time where making mistakes is permissible and okay. It's easier to make mistakes as a child and learn from them than it is to make those same mistakes as an adult and learn from them, because when you make those mistakes as an adult, the consequences always tend to be much greater than they were when you were a kid. So for example, kind of like what I've come to realize is people operate the same throughout from childhood to adulthood. It's the same shit. It's the same types of people, the same personality and character traits. If you learn how to like operate with those people or deal with those people as a child, it becomes easier to deal with those people as adults because it's nothing new. There's nothing new under the sun. You've seen it before. But when you take that experience away from those kids by trying to protect them from those things, they're going to struggle in a different way. So it's going to lead to problems for them down the line because you didn't allow them to learn that life lesson when they were supposed to. And now life is going to teach it to them at some other point. And a lot of times this is what I figured with a lot of doormat type personalities, where they have a really difficult time establishing boundaries because they were never allowed to do that, or they have a very difficult time picking up hobbies because they were never really allowed to do that as children. I guess like a decent example here would also be like if I have a kid who's a little bit nerdy, and like in the sense that they don't know how to stand up for themselves, and they're having issues at school. Just being present for those kids is enough. It's not my responsibility to fix that for my kid in the most obvious way of me intervening. Intervention is always the last means that you should have when you make yourself available to somebody. I think in a parent capacity, since I'm still speaking on that, is to make yourself available to talk, to listen especially, and have that person approach you. And if you're noticing that the problem is gradually getting worse, kind of base your response on that person's personality. Like if I know my kid is just like physically weak, I'll try to suggest different alternatives, like, hey, like let's go to the gym, or I found this cool gym. This could be something we could do together, like bulk them up. They don't have to know that you already see their problem. You're just kind of like helping toughen them up so that they can fight for themselves, or giving them like a little bit of an experience that you had around the same age. Like, hey, when I was a kid, there was this kid that used to annoy me or whatever, and then like push me around. And basically one time I got so sick of it, and then like I did XYZ, and this was the response. And overall, the problem started to diminish. You're putting yourself like an experience out there. You're making that person, your kid, feel like, okay, I don't directly want to ask you for help, because it's a little bit embarrassing usually for a kid to approach you like that. But you're giving them something like, here's a life experience you can learn from. Here's an example for you because the situation is not new. Or here's like a solution where I'm not actually directly involved, by like, let me take you to the gym and train you a little bit so that you know how to stand up for yourself if push comes to shove. And this is within that bullying example that I'm giving. So, and I think when you don't allow your kids to mess up, and you don't allow your kids to experience typical stuff of life, you're not doing them a favor. You're giving them a disservice, because like I had mentioned earlier, they're going to experience something similar. They're going to have a hard time later on. And it also shows a lack of trust on your end to your kids, because you're not trusting them enough to make valid decisions. You're not trusting them enough to be their own person. And your goal as a parent, if you actually do love your kids, is to prepare them for life and to prepare them for the real world. It's a little bit selfish to want to be that go-to person and always solving everything for somebody, because you're handicapping them in the long run. Because once you're not available, they don't know who to turn to. They don't know how to solve these things, and life is going to teach them a very harsh lesson. So, and that's from like a family's dynamic / a parent-child relationship. In a regular relationship as well, like if between a boyfriend and a girlfriend, or like a husband and a wife, it kind of surfaces in a similar way, where if you're too available, and this is, I think, pre-relationship, where I'm friends with a girl, or a girl is friends with me, and we're just strictly friends, but I'm always available to her, or she's always available to me to listen to all my problems, to give me advice on certain things. Like, she's starting to take on, and like slowly over time take on spousal responsibilities, or take on a partner's responsibilities, without the other perks of like the relationship. And this could become detrimental down the line, so that when I get into a relationship or she gets into a relationship and we're still doing that, you're kind of not allowing that person's partner to be present in their life or be in like that more meaningful part of a relationship, because you're still making this other person your go-to and you're too available. Stop providing boyfriend type services or husband type services in a situation, and stop providing girlfriend type services or wifely type services to a friend when you're not in that kind of status. Like, you need to allow people to feel bad or to tackle things. And this is something I think a lot of us nowadays struggle with, because you always want to see people feeling good. You don't like to see them down. But I think part of maturing and adulthood as well is even being able to see what a person is struggling with and being able to determine how or when should I get involved. Like, is this my responsibility to bear? And even if it's not my responsibility, or even if it is my responsibility, in what capacity? In what capacity should I be involved? Because I know if I get involved here, this person has a history of catching feelings, and that person is going to catch feelings for me, and then it's going to turn into XYZ. And that's in that specific sense. So stop making yourself too available to people. Be available for the people that you love and care about, but in the capacities that you're supposed to be. Stop taking on more than you should, because it's like, it's nice of you in a sense, but at the same time, you're doing more harm than you are doing good in the long run. So let me know what your actual thoughts on this conversation are, because I think there's a lot of perspectives and there's a lot that can kind of be said about it, because I haven't really touched on all the examples. I only touched on two, but I might take this talk to wisdom as well. And I'm always plugging the app because it's really cool. You'll talk to a lot of very interesting personalities who have like ideas on these types of topics, because you don't see in everyday conversation talking to your friends or talking to peers or whatever that you talk about something beyond small talk or hanging out. So yeah, let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And most importantly, don't forget to turn on notification bells, and I'll see you guys in the next video.